I never thought I'd say this out loud, but after 65, I stopped trying to date. Completely. And not because I gave up on love. Not because I couldn't find anyone, but because the truth, the real raw truth, hit me like a cold wind one evening after dinner. They never tell you how different love feels when you're older, how lonely it can get even when someone's sitting right across from you. I learned some painful lessons, and I want to share them, not to scare you, but maybe to save you from what I didn't see coming. It started with a steak dinner, medium rare, candlelight, and a gentleman who wore a tie clip, which in my younger years I would have found charming. He smiled a lot, talked about his retirement plans, laughed at his own jokes, and, bless him, he meant well. But somewhere between the salad and the main course, I felt it, that cold aching pit in my stomach. It wasn't him, it wasn't the restaurant. It was the realization, oh, it hit hard, that I was performing. Again, nodding politely, smiling when I didn't feel like it, laughing just enough, not too much, asking all the right questions so he'd feel heard, even though I wasn't being heard at all. I felt like I was back in my 30s, on a first date, trying to seem just easygoing enough, just interesting enough. But now, I was in my late 60s. My kids were grown, my mirror was honest, my time was precious. And yet here I was, shrinking myself to make a stranger comfortable. I went home that night, kicked off my shoes, and just sat in the hallway. I didn't even make it to the bedroom. And I thought, is this what dating is supposed to feel like after all I've lived through? Not connection, not comfort, just tension, pretending, fatigue. That was the moment, the very moment I realized, no, it wasn't about being single. It was about finally being free. People think being single means being lonely, but let me tell you something. The loneliest I've ever felt was in the wrong relationship. You know the kind, where you're sitting across from someone and you both have forks in hand, but not a single real word is exchanged. Where you sleep next to someone, but you still feel like you're on an island. That's not companionship, that's isolation in disguise. And oh, I've been there. Smiling at dinner parties, holding hands at family functions. But deep down, I was exhausted. Not from being alone, but from pretending I wasn't. After I stopped dating, something surprising happened. I started filling my life with me. Mornings became slow and sweet. I didn't have to negotiate over coffee brands or which side of the bed to sleep on. I danced in my kitchen in socks. I talked to myself without shame. I read books late into the night without worrying if the lamp bothered anyone. And that kind of freedom, oh, it's priceless. I'm not saying love isn't beautiful. Of course it is. But after a certain age, you realize that not all hunger is for romance. Sometimes it's for peace, for space, for joy that doesn't have to be shared or explained. Loneliness? It taught me to listen to my own voice again. And that voice, she had a lot to say. I reconnected with friends I hadn't called in years. I went to the movies alone and didn't feel weird about it. I even joined a poetry group, something I'd always wanted to do but never made time for. So if you're afraid of being alone, I get it. We all want connection. But don't let the fear of loneliness drag you into a half-lived life with someone who doesn't light you up. Sometimes, choosing solitude is the most powerful connection you can make. You wouldn't believe how many times I heard it. Well, have you thought about dating again? You should get back out there. Or my personal favorite, don't you miss having someone? And look, these words usually come from a good place. People want to see you happy, whatever that means. But the truth is, they don't always understand that peace and partnership are not the same thing. After my decision to stop dating, the pressure didn't magically disappear. If anything, it got louder, especially from those who think being single over 60 is some kind of tragedy. They'd try to fix me up, recommend online dating, share advice I never asked for. Oh, just be open-minded, they'd say. But open-minded to what? Another cycle of auditioning for connection? Another string of dinners where I measure every sentence? Here's what they don't tell you. When you stop trying to find someone, the world assumes you've given up. But what if, just maybe, you've finally chosen yourself? I stopped seeing being single as a waiting room. I started treating it like a home I could decorate with anything I pleased. No more pretending, no more pressure, no more contorting myself into shapes that didn't feel like me. Instead, I focused on what made me feel alive. Not coupled, not approved, not normal, just alive. And that's the version of me I'm proudest of. If someone shows up who adds to that, wonderful. But I'll never again trade pieces of my peace just to not feel alone. Because real loneliness isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of self. And I'm finally back to being whole. Here's what I want to make very clear. I didn't stop dating because I gave up on love. Oh no, far from it. I still believe in love. I just stopped chasing the version of love that made me feel small. At this age, love has a different shape. It's not fireworks. It's not butterflies. It's not even holding hands at the movies, though that's nice too. It's choosing yourself every single morning. It's treating your peace like a sacred garden. It's having boundaries and not apologizing for them. It's looking in the mirror and saying, and this is enough. I am enough. Some people look at me, a single woman in her 60s, and think I'm lonely or waiting, but I'm not waiting for anything. I'm living fully, unapologetically. I love my solitude. I love my routines. I love waking up in a quiet house and brewing coffee just the way I like it. I love spending time with friends who don't drain me. I love going to bed, knowing I didn't compromise my peace for a sliver of company. Love now looks like a Sunday morning with jazz playing, a walk alone at sunset, a deep conversation with a friend that doesn't need flirting to feel warm. I've learned to love myself so well that I no longer look outward for validation. I no longer need a second chair at the table to feel complete. And if someone walks in one day who speaks the same language of love, peace, respect, joy, then sure, I'll scoot over and make space. But if not, I'll be just fine. Because the most radical, freeing love I've ever known is the one I found when I stopped trying so hard to be loved by someone else. So, if you've ever felt like you're supposed to be dating just because that's what people expect, maybe it's time to ask yourself, do I even want to? Because you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to choose peace over pressure. And you're absolutely allowed to build a life that feels full, even if it doesn't include romance. If this story spoke to something deep inside you, don't just scroll away. Take a second to breathe, reflect. And if you'd like more stories like this, quiet, honest, and full of the truths no one talks about, go ahead and subscribe to Elder Words. You're not alone in how you feel. And here, your story, your heart, it matters. See you in the next one.